This year saw a lot of great games released exclusively on all the different platforms, except if you play on Xbox, which was the typical nothing. I'm kidding, those people that play on Xbox. I love you just as much as everybody else. Though honestly, releases have been a little slow due to the complications of the global environment and everything. But still, we got so many great games this year that why not make a top 10 video? And if some reason you answered that's a waste of time because Starfield didn't release this year, then again, I'm telling you, that's just Xbox. Am I allowed to make the same joke twice in a row? Whatever the case, this being my list, I am allowed to make whatever rules I want. And in this case, my only rule is that the game has to have been released this year. Now again, this is my opinion and you're entitled to yours, so if you want to express that, you can drop it in the comments section down below. But with that out of the way, let's get to my top 10 games of 2022.
Number 10!
Next run of games has been a literal mess for ages, till that one year we finally got what we had all been waiting for in Sonic Mania, which was followed by the horrible disappointment that was Sonic Forces the same year. I still want to forget that game exists, which puts Sonic Frontiers in an interesting place. Partly inspired by Sonic Forces, Sonic Fighters? What's that? Nobody remembers that game? It's that one time that Sonic became a fighting game, and forget it. Also inspired by the open world games of the late, Sonic Frontiers presents our favorite blue blur with something unique but not completely satisfying. At one moment it feels good to run around an area, but then there is the dash button that causes you to go way too fast and wind up losing control. Another, you can be fighting an enemy with no problem, but the next you can't quite climb that climbable wall because the game doesn't understand you just want to go straight up the freaking wall. Is Sonic Frontiers fun? Yes. Is it better than Forces? Please, the two should never be at the same chili dog stand. Is it worth your time and money? It depends on how big of a fan you are of Sonic. For me, Sonic Frontiers is a look into what the series can become in the future, and it actually looks kinda nice.
Number 9!
Nintendo Switch Sports is a game I poured countless hours into just to get the outfits and other bits and bobs. Unfortunately, playing it so much soured my experience in it a bit. This is not a game that you can or probably really should play hours on end despite the unlockable shark, which yes, I did get, so watch out internet. Now that negativity might make you ask, why put it on top 10 at all, Broseph? To which I would answer that the pick up and play nature of the original Wii Sports is alive and well in this game. When you get family over that never play video games and they consequently pick up the controller and want to go just one more round, you know you have a winner. Sure, the motion tracking is not 100% the best. I had to recalibrate more than once in many of the more motion intense sports, and the exclusion of some of the best Wii sports, I'm looking at you boxing, seem to make this a lesser package. What is here is still fun and addictive, like soccer and volleyball, anyone? And more than earns its spot on this list. Nintendo, I have only one thing to say, bring back boxing.
Number 8!
Growing up, I had a few obsessions, one of which was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Fast forward a few decades, yes, I'm old, don't rub it in. When we got Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game, I fell in love with that game, which is why when Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge got announced and was being helmed by some of the same people that worked on Scott Pilgrim, I immediately took notice. TMNT Shredder's Revenge is an excellent callback to how the original TMNT games were, but with modern sensibilities. Though it lacks some of the character growth that gave Scott Pilgrim so much depth, TMNT's Shredder's Revenge still winds up being enjoyable. From its callbacks to the series and previous games to the style and character or the characters themselves, if you are a Turtles fan, you need to play this game. If you are anybody else, grab someone that owns it and jump in with a pizza. Just don't throw the pizza. Pizza is for eating.
Number 7!
The original Mario plus Rabbids game was a unique, tactical game that, for me, wound up becoming so difficult, I only just recently picked it back up to try and complete it with the help of a guide. Yes, I know, it's been out practically since the Switch launched. Don't hate me. Fortunately, that difficulty problem is gone in Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. From the goofy antics of the Rabbids to the goofy voice acting, yes, there's voice acting in this game, and it's okay. With this game, Ubisoft took all the good parts of the previous entry and let the developers fine-tune the game, adding more polish than ever. Some might say that combat has become a bit too easy, and I admit, it's easier than maybe it should be, even on normal. This game is more approachable to me, the guy who loves Fire Emblem, but absolutely will lower the difficulty because I don't want to replay hours of my life to fix one mistake that led to a character death. Don't judge. All in all, Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope is a great game, and it really does spark a little hope for the future of the series.
Number 6.
Games that come out in December usually wind up getting left off of top 10 lists. Being too late in the year for anyone to put any quality time into, and being totally forgotten for next year because, well, it's another year. But Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion is something just a bit special for me. Back when I had a PSP, I loved this game, but unfortunately never saw it to the end. That is why I am so thankful to have this remake. Yes, the story is on the crazier side, but protagonist Zack Fair is instantly likable. Yes, some of the voice acting is goofy, but just about every line is voice acted. Yes, the controls are a bit off, but the combat is extremely satisfying. And yes, the Switch version is the weaker graphical version, but I can't tell that much difference. All in all, Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion is a game I plan to spend the time in actually beating this time, because someone has to prove that puppies can be heroes too.
Number 5.
Have you ever picked up a new game in a series and been wowed by the fact that what you are playing is similar and yet oh so much more than the previous entries? This is how I felt when playing Kirby and the Forgotten Land, a game that really shows how good a Kirby game can really be. Kirby and the Forgotten Land plops our pink puffball hero into a massive 3D world reminiscent of 3D Mario games, but with Kirby's trademark cute aesthetic. Now I say cute, but that really pertains more to the baddies Kirby will be inhaling than the world that's around him, and that's not a bad thing, as every world is still an amazing sight to behold. Each level does something just a little bit different, as if the developers were told, here's a blank canvas, get creative. I mean, look at these worlds. Every one of them is unique. While the basics of running, jumping, and inhaling are still there, the new mechanic this time is mouthful mode, in which Kirby literally sucks in whole objects like a car or a vending machine and starts going crazy. The first time I got a hold of one of these, it was a sheer delight, and fortunately they never felt over or underutilized. If I can lodge just one small complaint against Kirby and the Forgotten Land, it would be that I wish there was just a couple more copy abilities. Can wanting more of a good thing really be a complaint though?
Number 4.
I have been playing Pokemon games for a long time, and while the mainline games have slowly tried to experiment with the formula, they have never really done much to shake up its core. Enter Pokemon Legends Arceus, a game that in my opinion stands as one of the best games Game Freak has put out in a long time. Yes, the story is kind of nonsensical, but that's never really been the biggest focus of a Pokemon game. It's always been about catching and training those little A-Bay pocket monsters. And yes, this game finally puts more emphasis on the catching and more utility on the side of the trainer. You are going to be ducking, throwing Pokeballs, and dodging. Wait, did I just say dodging? That's right, dodging, because these Pokemon can straight up kill you in this game. Okay, kill might be an overstatement, but the point is the challenge is finally back in a Pokemon game. In previous Pokemon games, filling in the Pokedex has been as easy as catching a Pokemon, but this time you actually have to study and battle the Pokemon in different ways to fill in that Pokedex. Trust me, if you love Pokemon games or are curious to pick one up, do yourself a favor and grab Pokemon Legends Arceus.
Number 3.
At the beginning of the Switch's life, if you had told me that we would be getting Splatoon 3 after just 4 years, I probably wouldn't have believed you. If you had told me that Splatoon 3 would be better than 2 in almost every way, well, that I might have actually believed. Sorry Nintendo, but your online stuff just isn't the best. Fortunately, we do have Splatoon 3, which really is better than Splatoon 2. The matchmaking, while not perfect, is way more streamlined than the previous entries. In fact, everything about this game is just faster. When I recently went back and played the original Splatoon, it was amazing to feel how much slower that game ultimately was. From just moving and shooting to loading between places, this game is just speedier. Now I have to admit the single player story was fun, but honestly it is one and done for me. The biggest deal for me is the multiplayer and all the friends I have made while playing it. Which really is the heart of this game. If you are on the fence about this game, I guarantee it is worth it even if you already have Splatoon 2. The characters are just as colorful as you always remember, and the friends you make along the way are what really counts. Oh, and we have lockers to decorate.
Number 2.
Have you ever almost missed out on a game but thankfully paid enough attention to it to grab it? Then, after playing it, you're left with the feeling of, that was phenomenal, and what the heck did I just play at the same time? That sums up my thoughts on 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim quite well. More story than actual game, which follows a young man named Juro and a cast of many through possibly one of the most crazy and yet masterfully pieced together stories I have ever experienced in a game. To talk too much about it would be to take away from an experience best enjoyed oneself. What I will say is that if you like mechs, time travel, alternate realities, alien invasions, and almost any other science fiction thing you can think of, it's here in this game. That might sound like a lot, but Vanillaware are masters in the art of storytelling, and everything gets wrapped up so beautifully that really is amazing. Some might bemoan the way the story is split between so many characters, or the not so optional RTS segments, but I enjoyed them both. And the art style, how could I forget it? Just watching the gameplay here, if you haven't fallen in love with it, then I think you might be a little dead inside.
Number 1.
Now before I start gushing about this game, I have a confession to make. As of the time of writing the script, I still have not beaten the main story of Xenoblade Chronicles 3. But it doesn't matter, because Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is still a masterpiece of video game storytelling. The story, which follows Noah, Mio, and their friends on a world-altering journey as a somber tale, is one worth taking one's time with. The story gets dark and philosophical in equal measure. Fortunately, there are lighter moments spread out through the game, and while I wouldn't say this game nails every moment-to-moment beat, the heart of it is in the journey as a whole. The largest change to combat for me being that I can finally swing my sword while swimming. Some might say that the Ouroboros forms are the highlight, and while they did bring a bigger scale to the fighting, they never made a big enough change for me. Meanwhile, the world in this game is huge. I am talking massive, and yet the developers made it so I never got lost. It's a true testament to the world building expertise of the staff at Monolith Soft. For my part, the best part of the game though is Noah, Mio, and the rest of the team. These characters are exceptionally written and voiced. They bring life to the world and are by far my favorite part of this game. Yes, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is massive, and it will take a lot of time to beat, but if you are on the fence about playing this game even just a little, make that leap. I promise you will enjoy the journey. That does it for my list of games for 2022. Was your game on this list? Or do you think that a different game entirely should have been on my list? let me know. Drop a comment in the comment section down below. And also look out for my list next year because that'll probably be a thing. Probably. But as always, don't forget to take a break from life and nerd out. See you next time.